Okay, in my last video blog, I talked about a seller who came to us and was hoping that she could get the property back that we had gotten from her 4 years ago because she needed more space. Now here is another example of something similar to that, but it was a little bit diabolical behind the scenes on it. So this property here, we never bought this property. We leased it with the right to sublease it, looking for an end buyer who could qualify to cash this property out. Now we can still do all the same things. So the seller never really trusted us, and that's highly unusual, but that's the case. Well, we found out why later on, which was because of who they are and how they are. But the bottom line is, we put an end buyer in place who was a lease purchase end buyer. They did a lot of work to the house. They put a new air conditioner in it and all that, and then they decided that they weren't going to stay in the house. That happens all the time. I can't tell you how many times that's happened, where people will move in, they'll have all these great plans of what they want to do, and then time and circumstance changes for them, and then all of a sudden, and I can't remember with that end buyer, whether they got a job in another state or what it was. I don't remember what the situation was, but they decided to move back out. So we were getting ready to market the house again to put another one in, and the seller contacted us and said, hey, we would like to have the house back. And so it's like, okay, well, if you want the house back, fine. You know, I spend $10 on them, I make thousands off of them, tens of thousands of dollars off of them, sometimes more than 100,000 off of them. And if a seller says, hey, they'd like to have the house back, how much is enough and when is enough? So the bottom line is, if you like to have the house back, then here's your house back. You can have it back and do what you want with it. Well, the reason that this seller wanted their house back was because they thought that they could do what we do without any training, just by watching a little bit of what we did with that first end buyer. So they figured they could do the same thing. Well, you can't. It takes some training. It's not a tremendously difficult business to learn. It's 3 days, all day long, at the basic level, learning how to do these simple little deals that you're watching on this video blog. But you got to know what you're doing and how to do it to protect yourself, to protect your, if there's a seller involved, if there's an end buyer involved, you got to learn what it is to do to protect everyone and make the whole thing stick together with the best glue possible. Well, when they took it back over, we just said, sure, here, take it back. They tried to do what we do, and we kind of monitor, we watch, and it fell apart, and it fell apart in an ugly way for them. And just recently, we noticed that the house is up for sale again, but it's costing them an arm and a leg because they just don't know what they're doing. But the reason they wanted it back was to try to do what it is that we do. So we're paid by our end buyer. The seller doesn't pay us a dime, but we're paid by our end buyer to know how to do what it is that needs to be done to make it possible for people to get their American dream of home ownership.